What's up, guys? I told you I'd be back, and here I am. I think this is only the second video, so still a little rough, still a little unrehearsed, which is what I like, actually. That's what they're going to be about. So I told you a little bit about myself. It's kind of a personal blog, journal-ish thing first, until we see what direction it goes in. So I wanted to dive into the beginnings and see what we can spike up in conversation. So my beginnings were that I was adopted. And I was adopted from Colombia into a family here of Irish and English and Polish descent. So needless to say that they were white and I was not. And I never, ever in my childhood had to experience anything negative in regards to that. Like nothing. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know the difference of anything until I was older, which is, I think, a huge advantage. I see today the kids, just can barely talk and they already know the difference of things and race. And I think that's a huge, I don't want to say problem. It's just something that you have to be careful. I think the reason that I didn't have a problem with it, other than the exposure and the, pointing of the finger at it, was I was just, by my parents, I was just treated like their son, and it didn't matter. So because it didn't matter to them, it didn't matter to me, and it still doesn't matter. I get excited about telling the story as I am now an adult and older and have kids and all that jazz, and have to explain it to them. It's kind of cool. When they talk to me about grandma and grandpa, I say, why are they different color than you? I'm like, well, here's why, so it's cool and it's exciting. So I'm an adult that owns a business that has kids and stepkids that was adopted. And I think one of the coolest things about being adopted is that I was able to see a really, really different version of love. Like, real different. And again, I didn't know it was different until I'm older and I have the situation where, not adoption situation, but a step family, stepchildren. It has its similarities where I'm a father figure to them. And I have to act and play the father role to them when I'm not their biological father. So it's really, really cool and really, really interesting. And I think I fit it well. I may be a little rough at it sometimes because of how I want to see things, but that's just me as my personality. But I really, really, truly think that I got a little advantage because of my background to playing that role. And I hope that they see it one day, just like it took me a lifetime to see it from what my mother and father did. I was able to just really, really harness their love and caring from a different perspective as I grew older, really, really thinking about it. And my mom wasn't a big talker to me as far as like on an emotional level. My dad either. They carried themselves differently, and they carried themselves in a way that I watched, but I think they were able to because of how I am, my personality, I guess, was watching, and I saw what they didn't do and what they did do, and I kind of morphed it. I'm a hell of a hybrid, My dad doesn't talk too much. I talk too much. And my mom doesn't talk too much, but I offer that ear for my mom, and I know that in her life she doesn't have very many people and didn't have very many people to vent, talk, and just be open with, and I provide that for her on a certain level, and my dad too. And I like that. I like that at the age that I'm in now, it's like a cool little role reversal. So, I want to hear about other people that were adopted, had some success, had some plights. Like, we have our plights too. I have an adopted sister from Colombia as well, on a completely different path. Completely different path. She kind of left the family. You know, I will never talk ill of her. She just had a different experience with it. And has a wonderful life, I'm sure. I haven't talked to her in years. I think the last time I actually talked to her was at her wedding that I went to, and because my father didn't or wasn't able to, they had a bit of a falling out, and my dad struggled with that and has since really struggled with that, and only of recent has just kind of taken that weight off him to try to live a little bit. It was very heavy on my father and my mother. But yeah, my sisters were both adopted from Colombia. We're only 3 years separate. She's younger than me, but we had monstrously different experiences with it. And I want to hear, from you guys, like, what are your experiences? She's still successful. She's probably, I don't know what she's doing with her life as far as career right now, but I know she was doing really well with it. She went to an Ivy League university. I think it's Ivy League. It's a Patriot League, whichever that is. So she's well educated. She took that route. I took the family business route. But I never had the adoption part of me be a problem. It was always a cool segue into why I am how I am, or how I talk, or why I have the last name that I do. It's always a cool way, and it's been a cool way for me to establish a good first impression or a good imprint on people as I move around in my world. So it's cool. I like it. I use it today still in my business, in my life, with my kids, with everything. So I want to hear. Come on, guys. Let's hear somebody else's story about adoption. I've had certain things happen in my adulthood with regards to the adoption that have been weird. I've had, other professionals say that they see it on me as a bit of a unresolved issue or something like that. But it's never shown up for me like that. Never. I've had some curiosity as to where my biologicals might be, but that's it. Curious. Do I want to go visit or hang out? Not really. I'd love to visit the country, but that's it. Maybe somebody out there has some connection to Colombia and adopted people or the family, and hook me up. Let me know. I was adopted out of an agency called CRAN, which I believe was a facility that was for women of domestic violence, I believe, or something in that world. So there's very little information that I have or was given with regards to my background. I just know my mother's name, my birth mother's name. That's it. And I did a little bit of poking around, and I found out, and it wasn't confirmed, but I think I found out that my biological mother passed away in 2018, months after I started to poke around and see if I could find anyone. I did the whole ancestry and all that. Nothing really came up, but like I said, it was never a part of me that was a driving force to go find out. It was really just curious. Just when I started to have children, I wanted to know. I wanted to be able to answer that. I wanted to be able to answer that questionnaire. What's your family history? My whole life, I don't know. I was adopted, and now I have children that are going to be filling that out, and all they have is me. I want to be able to have a little bit of a background onto something, So that's really it. So again, I'd love to hear about adoption in the adult form, and even the child form, but really from the adult professional form. How has it affected you? How can we share stories? Is anybody going through something that's troublesome right now? Love to hear from you in that world, because I didn't have a barely any, maybe a couple little insecurities growing up in my professional life. But I don't think that was from adoption or any kind of race thing. That was just because I was young in the game and I was new and I just needed to get my feet wet. I think anyone would have had that issue. So, adoption, stepfather or step parenthood in general, co-parenting even, all these things are a culmination of, you know, life in many people's lives that, you know, would need a discussion, and let's just talk about it. I'm sure there's some people that are struggling with this very same thing. You know, I'm sure that my adopted sister would have something to say on this platform. I'm sure of it. I don't know if she will ever say anything about it to me or to anybody. I'm not entirely sure that the people in her life know even about it. You know, I'm very vocal with mine. She very well may not be. So I'm not sure. I would love to know. Maybe she sees this one day and answers back. Perhaps. You know, maybe her kids one day find this on YouTube and say, like, who's that guy? Hey, I'm Uncle Jeremy. Uncle Jay. Come say hi. You know? So, I'm going to leave you at that. I'm going to go. I'm going to be back. We're going to continue talking about everything, quite frankly. I wanted to start in the beginning with the adoption part of me because that's where I started, and we're going to branch out from there. I'm going to keep bringing them to you. I want to hear some reaction. I want to hear something. That's really the fuel that I'm looking for. You know, I have a business and I wanted to talk about business on a whole nother platform. And in this platform, I wanted to be a little bit more intimate with things. There's a lot of guys out there that, again, maybe they're not like me, and maybe they're like me in the cabs of their truck too, but not recording it. Have a conversation, man. Let's just talk about it. I'll see you guys next time. I really, really appreciate this platform that you have allowed me to voice my stories on. And this one's about adoption and everything that comes with it. Successes, failures, insecurities, ups and downs. I want to be able to be a sounding board for anybody that is maybe struggling with that or also succeeding with that. Let me hear from you. Let's have a little conversation. Let's start a little group. I'm sure there's plenty of groups out there. Somebody point me in that direction. Maybe I can join them. But that's all for today. Appreciate it. Peace out.